Welcome, Office Hours friends. This is Dave Meyer. You'll note that my friend John Arms is not here today. I believe he is attending a graduation for a child of his, and apologies if that's not the case, John, but I was pretty sure that you said you were going to Wisconsin for a college graduation. So I think that's his deal. So congrats to John and his son for that. Also, I wanted to take this little bit of time to introduce Michelle. Michelle is going to talk to us about the missing link, the greatest discovery in the history of business. The fact that people buy based on certain personality codes, AKA their bank codes.
Yes.
So we're going to go through that. We're going to talk about some search engine stuff and what you can do. Michelle, of course, is going to talk about Smarty Pants and what she does there. And I am super excited. I've had a chance to chat with Michelle a little bit already today, and this is going to be a ton of fun. As you know, for everybody online, we're going to take chat questions for the first 15 or so, and then we're going to activate folks to ask questions live if they'd like. So they'll be able to ask. And then if you'd like to be on video as well, just let me know. And that's a little bit more in depth, where you'll get bumped off and then bumped back on to be able to chat with us live. But this is always intended to be super interactive. So without further ado, congratulations to John again, and thanks. And welcome, Michelle. How are you? Thanks for hanging out with me today.
I'm doing really good. Happy Friday the 13th.
Happy Friday the 13th.
Yeah, good day.
Super spooky.
Yeah, that's good. Oh, did I lose your audio?
No, I'm still here.
Okay. Oh,
Yep.
was that my cue to say something about myself?
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
You're all set.
Yep. Friday the 13th, a scary day. All right. Well, I'm happy to be here today. It's one of my favorite topics. I am an entrepreneur and I love being part of the Voyager U group, the collective of people that are making stuff happen in the world. So I love being part of that community. And today, John had heard about a program that I started called Winning at the Kitchen Table. And he's like, wow, what a great name. Who came up with that? And I said, well, I did. Okay. And it's all about whether you're in sales or you're an entrepreneur or whoever you're with, there's somebody on the other side of you when you're presenting your product or you're negotiating. And I happen to serve the home services market quite a bit, specifically HVAC contractors.
Excellent.
So, yeah, they're a great group of guys. But I started noticing the way that they talk about it in their industries. They talk about selling at the kitchen table. And anybody that is selling in the home has got such a unique advantage, because some of us sell on Zoom and some of us are in the boardrooms. But these guys and gals, they go into the person's home where that person is telling you who they are in 100 different ways. But to the untrained eyes and the untrained ears, they're just going in and they're doing their presentation. And what happens in that industry is they have a one-size-fits-all sales presentation where they go in with an iPad and they're instructed, find out what the comfort issues are, find out what they plug all this information into an iPad and then present the financing options. And then they had, after they saw my first presentation, one guy texted me and he was, thank you. I get so down on myself when I don't get a one-call close, because this industry is so hard on us. And they're like, you go into that home and you close that sale, and don't you be coming back to the office without a sale. So I was like, that insanity of having a one-size-fits-all selling presentation and expecting a one-call close. I go, that's nuts. So let's just take the angst off of yourself when you don't close a sale, because it's so important to understand that people buy from you for different reasons. I like to say that people have personalities. Personalities have preferences. And unless you know what the hidden set of preferences are, and it's values that lay underneath everybody's personality code, those values are hidden, right? Until we kind of flush them up a little bit. But we go for the values because what a person values is driving their behavior. It's driving their decision making. And so when you go in with your iPad and you've got this dumpty dump presentation, or as marketers, you have a digital agency, so do I. Prior to knowing this, I kind of thought, well, what is my message and how do I need to say it? And it makes sense inside here in my head, but it doesn't always resonate with everybody out there. And the way that we communicate based on this hidden set of values is so unique. It's almost as if people are speaking a different language, and they really, really, truly are. And it explains a lot about why. Let's just talk about when somebody wins a sale. Yeah. It feels good, right? For you or for me, like, yay, I just got a new client. And, when I used to work for corporate America or whatever, and you'd go back to the office and they say, oh, great, how did you get that sale? And most of the times, the best that you could say was that, I don't know. Everything just went so smoothly. We just got along. We clicked like that. Everything just flowed. And, we got the sale. And what we're really talking about is most likely two personality types that really kind of recognized one another and spoke the same language.
Awesome.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
On the contrary, like that contractor that texted me and he's like, oh, thank you. He said, I get so down on myself, right? It's just like there's a sense of discouragement when you go make a presentation and you don't walk away with the sale. So what do? Oh, well, you circle back. And you circle back and you circle back. And sometimes you're like, I'm getting a little dizzy here. Sometimes you get ghosted. And then you have two things that I can say is the frustration about not knowing, well, what did I do wrong? Or what did I miss? And when they ghost you, you never really get a chance to find that out. So there's frustration, there's confusion when you don't get a sale. And that takes its toll, especially in our group when we're entrepreneurs and we're fractional, and then it fixes our attention. They're like, what happened? Or why did that not happen? And so that's why I get so excited about this topic, because I struggled with those two things early on in my digital agency. And there were days that I would come back to the home office and I would say, you know what? Why don't I just go find a brick wall, and bang my head against it, because I couldn't figure out why did some people so enthusiastically hire me, sometimes on my first call, for a website that might be $10, $15, $20,000. And we're like, boom, you're it. Why does that happen sometimes? And other times I'm the one circling, and not knowing what is going on.
Right.
So it's a fantastic topic. And I became a trainer really because I was exposed to the book over my shoulder, Why They Buy. And the topic is so compelling. And I went, yeah, somebody riddled me that. And I read that book and I'm like, dang, how about I had this information when I was in my 20s? Wouldn't that have been good? And in that book, by the way, I saw my mother, I saw my ex-husband. So what I'm going to be talking about today, yep, it sure does work. And it sure does make your communication more effective, whatever you're doing. But you turn around and you apply it to every person in your life. Everybody's got a personality code, and everybody's got a 4-part personality code. So we never label somebody with a type, because you're all of these values, but you're in it in a particular sequence. And that's your code. And in our methodology, we really like to let people breathe within their code, right? That we just don't go, boom, you're this, or boom, you're that. Like I see that happen with some assessments, and I don't like it because, so we're a lot more than, this one thing that we get labeled as.
Right. Well, and this is fascinating, Michelle, because I know I do a ton of sales training and things as well. And with HubSpot, the company that I work with a lot, they do like office hours where we have sales reps from all over the world dial in, and we give them tips and tricks on how to have a consultative sale and to ask the right questions and to engage with people. But we've never talked about it as a personality type. So this is fantastic. And I'm delighted to be chatting with you about it. So tell us more.
Okay, it's so exciting. Well, first I want to say that people are familiar with personality assessments. Like I've taken them, and almost everybody has. And so the first thing that I want to do is just really differentiate about why they buy is so different. So I've taken Myers-Briggs, and they come back with a 4-part code. And I happen to be an INFP. And most people don't believe that, but I lean introverted because I like some quiet time,
Yep.
right? But in our methodology, we don't care if you're introverted or not. It has nothing to do with why a person buys. So where every other assessment is about psychology. When you take the assessment, you learn about you. You pay money, you wait X amount of time, and you get a report about you.
Mm-hmm.
What makes this so different is it's personality science reverse engineered, where our focus is who's sitting across the table from you, and can we teach you how to learn about that person in a way that's quick and easy and spot on accurate. So for the entrepreneur, it's like music to our ears, because otherwise, what would you do? You got a client that you know on LinkedIn, you go, hey, I'd really like to come and have an appointment with you, but before I come, I'm going to send you an assessment. You're going to have to spend some money out of your pocket to take that assessment. You're going to have to wait and give me the results so that I can come and have an appointment with you and know how to speak to you. I mean, that doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And so our methodology, we call it biology, BUY.
Yeah.
Biology.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why is someone going to do business with you? And before I say more about it, I just want to let people to know that everybody listening in your audience gets a free gift from me. And that's their free personality assessment. It's in the chat, and you're going to go, hey, smarty, crackmycode.com. And you're going to find that assessment. And what it's going to be is you're going to see a series of 4 colored cards. And each of these cards has got a set of 12 values on them. And what you're going to do is you're going to organize these cards in an order. So you're all of it, by the way. So that's why we say, we don't put a label on you. You're all 4 of these things, but you're them in a sequence. And the first part of your 4-part code that we call your bank code is who you are naturally. You don't have to try and be this way. This is just how God made you. Right. And then the rest of the code means something as well. So why they buy in the biology, what we're ultimately talking about is those values that I mentioned earlier. And how do you get more yeses and less nos? And the yeses we call triggers. So when you meet somebody, how can you communicate with them in a way that triggers a yes for them? And what are the things? Every personality type has a set of tripwires, things, and they never tell you. They, even after the fact, they just say, oh, we went another direction. There's a reason that they went another direction. And very rarely will people articulate it. It's something that happens at a moment in your sales presentation and the switch goes off and you very rarely know about it. So triggers and tripwires and just learning the language. Now, I just graduated a number of people out of my program called Winning at the Kitchen Table. I have to circle back for a second, work with a lot of the contractors. And I thought, God, I have to help these guys that just feel like they have to have this one, it's the same selling for everyone. And then you are really down on yourself if you miss the gate. So I call it winning. And it's really winning at the kitchen table, but it's really about having winning conversations. And the most important thing that I'm going to say before I reveal these personality codes is you don't change who you are. So, right? Michelle doesn't change. I don't act any differently. I don't take on another persona because I know that you have a different personality code than me. My product doesn't change. My services don't change. And the results that I deliver do not change. Mm-hmm. And you know what somebody else's language is. What does change is the way that I articulate it. So my message changes to match what they're concerned with. And every single one of these personality types that I'm going to introduce to you has a hidden fear. And boy, howdy, isn't it nice to know what somebody's internal fear is that very rarely makes it off their lips? So without further delay, I'm going to introduce you to the 4 personality types. And so we call them, it's called a bank code because the B and the A and the N and the K in our methodology are the personality codes. So we have 4 codes as well. Awesome. All right. Mm-hmm. So the first part of our personality profiling system is called the blueprint personality. And you're going to notice something about this personality. It's like the color is also blue. So the blue and blueprint means something in our methodology. Blue oftentimes can represent a person that may be a little bit more reserved. I used to have this feeling in my went and sales calls that that person had me under a microscope. And that while I was going through things, I felt like I was like a bug under a microscope. Like, why are they not saying very much? Why are they just staring at me? And then why are they micromanaging me? This was my big hurdle to get over, was this personality type. And I love doing business with blueprints now, but they tend to be a little bit cooler in their personality, a little closer to the vest, not really revealing a whole lot. Blueprint, if you think about an architect, if you're going to build a home or a new HVAC system, there's a blueprint, right? You see that document's all rolled up. And is that document a suggestion, or is it pretty precise? And this person is very precise.
Right. So probably for our fractionals that are online, they're probably talking to CFOs or controllers.
Yeah. And so in the training, we reveal that these people can't help it. They're naturally attracted to jobs that meet their values, right? So spot on. Oftentimes the chief financial officer, these people think inside the box. And so they're really rule followers. Right. And they have, and since I've dated men in this camp as well, like sometimes I'd be like, wait, what happened? There's like compartments in their head. And there's rules associated with them, and you don't know that you've broken the rule until you've broken the rule. And I'm like, well, why didn't you tell me that was something that was important? So they're very, very structured personality type. They're very conservative in nature. They are very budget conscious. So going back to that model, if you talk about your product in just one way and it doesn't match the values of the blueprint, they're not going to do business with you.
Sure.
They're just not.
Sure.
They're loyal. So the color blue also represents trust, credibility, loyalty. That's why many corporations use blue in their logo. So they're looking at you, and however you present to them, they're wondering inside their head, is he or she credible? Can I trust that person? And they're literally, we have blueprint trainers. And so I've consulted with them and they go, yeah, we look at you that way because, yeah, we're vetting you. Okay. We're vetting you, your product, your company. We don't like newfangled things. We don't like a lot of things. We don't like a lot of energy. So if you're the next personality that I'm going to introduce and you come in and you're very passionate about what you have, you're turning this person off. So it comes down to what works for them. And the biggest thing that I had to learn in my company, because this is my opposite of me, is, I named my company Smarty Pants.
Yeah.
Hello. And I'm, it's just like, what is she, kind of a smart ass? Someone asked me that one time. Did you not like the word smart ass, And I go, well, no, it's just like fun, right? So I had to learn, and the closest that I came to it when I was failing miserably with this personality, I would be in a meeting and I would know it's not going well. You know how you can just feel like this isn't going well. Right. And the closest I ever came to cracking this nut was I knew that my energy level was maybe too much. So I would just have to go, I gotta damp it down. And so I would bring my energy down. I would talk a little softer and I would talk a little slower. That's as close as I ever got. Wow. Okay, at the end, I'm going to share some success stories. I won a piece of business with a blueprint about 6 months ago, and I worked for it, right? But it's a cautious buyer, and he said no to me twice. And I ended up closing over $50,000 worth of business because I learned how to speak his language, the blueprint language. How do you sell a website to a blueprint? It's very different than how I talk about websites. Plan, the process, you me?
Yep,
cool.
You go through the rules and why they're doing what they are and what they're going to get out of it. Molly on our chat is married to a blueprint, an engineer programmer. And so I'm sure she has lots of killer tips on how to deal with getting her husband. Yeah,
Molly, if you find that link and go crack your own code. And as a matter of fact, you can share that link with your husband, because I'm going to move on to our next personality type, right?
Yeah.
The next personality is an action personality. Okay. So we give this personality a color red. Well, what does it mean? This person typically has a lot of energy, right? They're like, boom, they're excited, right? It's one of the values on the card, excitement, right? Opportunity, right? It's on the card. They're also the type of buyer that really likes to be treated special. So this is just like, wait, you slow down and show me how and why I can trust you and why you're credible. And this one is like, get me to the end game. This person is goal oriented. In the scenario with the HVAC salespeople, I go, this could be a one call close. I want to know why? Because they like to get shit done, right? They have it in their mind. Oh, my furnace broke. I need a new AC. Okay, boom. It's kind of in my world, when something like that happens, it's just like, oh, I've got all these other things I want to do. I got to get it done. So if you hear someone say get her done, you're probably talking to an action personality.
Yeah.
Right. And the pace is much where Blueprint, it's a methodical approach. Even the way that you do your proposals, the timeliness, your punctuality with the action. A lot of times when this is my easiest sell because it's someone like me. Like this is my one call close. Every time I look back, I got a one call close. They love my passion. They love that I specialize in their niche. They love, the results that I got. It's action, doing business with action, right? Boom, boom. How fun if only that happened every day.
Right.
So you have to learn how to speak the other languages. This person in my winning at the kitchen table, I'll give you an example of why it's so important to understand personalities. What happens when you don't get a sale is you start feeling a little discouragement. And every time you circle back and something isn't happening, it gets a little worse. And then at some point in time, we start judging that other person. You know what? That person was kind of arrogant. That person was just a real nitpicker. And we start telling stories inside our head. We start judging somebody. And are you going to go back and close a sale with somebody that you really have developed this level of resistance with? And no, you're not. So in my group of contractors, the one guy, the second time we got together, he was so excited. He was like, Michelle, I went out on a sales call. I got steamrolled. I mean, that buyer walked into the house and that person just rolled right over me. And he said, I was getting kind of pissed off because I couldn't even do my presentation. And he said, but in the back of my head, Michelle told me you're always dealing with a personality type. So separate the person from the personality type. Separate the person from the behaviors or the values. And he said, I knew not to get frustrated. And so he said, I couldn't wait to come back to the office and ask, what should I do? And I said, give them the wheel. Let them lead, because they're going to take you to the finish line and you're going to get there faster than you ever will with the blueprint. So the set of values are completely different. This person thinks outside the box. Rules are not made for me. Who made that stupid rule? Is how the thinking is. So these people will rule you out. This person is going to rule you out for different reasons. This person will rule you out. You were late. They told you what their budget was. You went over it. Just all these rules and you offended them. So this person will rule you out sometimes by the way you're dressed. Like, why didn't you bring your A game? I'm bringing my A game. Where's yours? Right? You came, you didn't look professional. Yeah. Sometimes if you become an obstacle in the sales process, because they'll roll, I go, that's an action personality. There's no doubt in my mind. So just give them the wheel, because they're going to take you to the finish line. But Molly, I'm wondering what you are in the real world. These two people, they meet, they date, they fall in love, they marry, and then there you are at the kitchen table or in the boardroom as business partners with two polar opposites. One with their foot on the gas pedal, the other one with the foot on the brake. What are you going to do? How are you going to sell?
Molly just confirmed. She said, yep, I'm red.
Oh, yeah. So we sometimes say, Molly, not saying it's true for you, that opposites attract and then they attack. And it happened in one of my key relationships where the very reason that you liked that person in the first place, became a reason that they really disliked you, and he would say to me, why do you always have a say? Why do you think this and you feel that? And I go, I haven't cornered the market on expressing myself. You can too, but it doesn't get expressed until the rule has been, I don't know what happens there. It's just, we're different. Right. And so now you can see how, as a fractional or whatever it is that you're doing, you can see how polar opposite these two people are. So you better be prepared to have a message for these two polar opposite personalities that will do business with you for different reasons.
Right.
So now I will introduce you to the third personality type. And we gave this a color yellow. It's like sunshine, happy, sunflowers, heart of gold. And in the box analogy, they recycle the box. And so this person is neither one of those values. There's 12 separate values on this card. And it's really about community, connection, harmony. They will feel you. They will feel you. If you're coming in for the close and you care more about the profit than you do about them, they will feel it. And if you're selling to a team and there's someone on the team, they might just say, I can't put my finger on it. But that person does not feel right. And they're probably never wrong. They make decisions based on intuition, right? It's a feel thing. Are you a good person in the world? Is your company doing anything for charity? They really love it if you have a team and you engage with their team. Teamwork is a big thing. Morality is a big thing. Contributing to the greater good is a very, very good thing. Eye contact is a very good thing. I'm telling my HVAC guys, I go, you go walking in with your iPad. There's two of these personality types that might like it and two that are like, put the thing away. This is one of them.
Right.
Like, and with all of us, I have to say this, with all of us having so much screen time, I just welcome, get me away from my computer. So now if I'm buying a new furniture, you come walking in, now you want me to look at your iPad. I'm like, aren't you an expert? That's what I'm thinking. Aren't you an expert? Like, don't you know what questions to ask? I can't, it's not working, or that's my problem. Like, what the heck, right? And so the nurturing person really, really wants that connection with you. So now we have found 3 completely different reasons for doing business with you, right? I often think about the know, like, and trust. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. Well, is it somewhat clear that the different personality types will know, like, and trust you for different reasons? Right?
Totally.
So this is the nurturing personality. This, by the way, is the person. So I like to think about what's at stake for any of us in our business. When you win a new piece of business, it opens up the door to some really valuable things. That once you win it, you could get a referral, 1, 2, 3, or more from somebody that's so happy with you and what you've done.
Right.
You can get a review, which everybody needs more authentic reviews. And now you have a customer to retain. So what's at stake is much greater than the initial sale, although that sale is important to the livelihood. But of all the personality types, if you take a look and you go, which one has the most relationship currency?
Nurturers are going to make it happen. They'll
Yeah.
take care of it.
The ripple effect. It's like, it's like for the ladies, if I have a new recipe or something, this is the second part of my code, by the way, but if I have a new recipe or whatever, everybody knows about it. You know about it. No, oh my God, I made this elk stew or whatever it is. Oh, I got this walleye and I did this, or whatever it is, everybody knows about it, right? I have been not hired by nurturing personality types, but they referred me like crazy because they liked me. Maybe they were part of a team and the team went another direction, but they were, they go, Michelle, I just really like you. And you just seem so refreshing, or whatever the word is. And they go, I'm part of this organization.
Right.
And I was just wondering, would you like, yeah? So don't ever get discouraged if they don't do the business. I've had nurturing people not do business with me, but turn me on to like huge, huge business because the know, like, trust factor was so good and the connection was so authentic. Yeah. Feelers, make decision on feel. Okay. Now our last personality, the K in bank, is the knowledge personality. We give this the color green. Just think your Excel spreadsheet. Okay. This is my lead SEO. He's knowledge first. The guy can solve any problem in the world, but these people make their decisions from their mind. And so they're some of the smartest people you will ever meet. And when you look at the values that are on the card, it's just like self-mastery. These are the lifelong learners. They're just like, there's always something to learn, right? When you go in their house, there might be books in every single room. So these are training your eyes and ears, like what's in the environment. But they like learning and they like logic, and they really expect you to come prepared. So is it a good idea to show up and wing it, if you knew that this was your customer? And no, you don't have to be as smart as they are. You don't have to know everything that they know, but you have to be competent. You have to be prepared.
Right.
I wrote a white paper I'm the creator of the Ductless Directory. It's a national directory. And after I went through the training, I go, I have nothing for the knowledge people. I have nothing. I talk to them. I tell them what I can do for them. I have nothing. I go, oh, I think I'll write a white paper. I give a white paper to a knowledge personality, and it's like they light up. Every single one of these personality types has got a word or something that just piques their interest. Oh, a white paper? A case study? Oh, you're making a contribution? And so what we start learning about in an authentic way is just really how to speak to these people. These people look at the big picture. So they're really big picture thinkers, but they can also zoom in. I like to think of like on a camera, how you can have a wide angle lens, and then you can get that zoom in angle and you're going in for like the greatest detail that's just unbelievable. Like sometimes these people make my head hurt,
Right.
But I've just learned to appreciate them. Like they're just looking at your offer from every possible perspective. And that's the knowledge. So they're making their decision from their mind. Now, that is the introduction to the 4-part personalities. Ooh, let me not forget this. These 2 personality types, they meet, they date, they marry, they're opposites. One is going through life in the mind, the other's going from their heart. This one feels like, why aren't you more affectionate? Why don't you tell me you love me? And this one is just like I did on our wedding day. Like, well, I still do. I'll let you know if it changes, right? And so when you meet them as business partners, because do opposites not attract in the business world? You have a business partner because they're different than you.
Yep. If you're smart about it, you need to round out your capabilities, right? So
yeah. And in corporations, right, we always say if you're building a corporate team, like some of your fractional people, maybe they got let go from Honeywell, but maybe they could turn around and Honeywell could be their client.
Right.
Like you want these 4 perspectives on your team because you're going to make better decisions, right? Collectively by taking in all of these attributes and these values and these perspectives.
Yeah.
So everybody's got a 4-part code. Sorry if I rattled on a little too much.
That's perfect. And I want to give our attendees a chance to weigh in.
Yes,
so
let us
for
do
everybody that's here, I'm going to activate the allow to talk. So if you don't want to talk, that's completely cool. You're welcome to interact with the chat. If you're, a blueprint, you might not want to chat, but you might have a lot of detail that you want to get to. I know that there are folks that are in the fractional world, and I'd love to hear your personality type as you're interpreting it. And if you look at the chat, I did post the link to Michelle's page, and that's the Hey Smarty crackmycode.com page, and you'll be able to see each of those cards through there. So I'm going to allow everybody to talk. And if you raise your hand after this, or if you just tell me, I'd love to be able to be seen as well as talk. That would be the perfect time. Now, Molly's had a couple of notes. She actually thinks now that maybe her husband is green and she's red, so green and red.
Yeah.
And, she actually had the note at the end there that she said, her grandpa literally did that to her grandmother.
Yeah.
Once he loved her, and that was enough.
And this is, you can just see. So yeah, Molly. So yeah, in the Myers-Briggs, we're opposite, right? INFP, you're ESTJ. That's fine. Oh no, you're ENFP. Oh, well, we're similar.
Right.
Dave,
I'm
you're
ENFP and she's ESTJ.
Yeah. So those are fun. It's just like personally, where are we at feeling, thinking, right? There is some parallels, but nothing is greater than knowing the bank code, because what I didn't get a chance to say is we have 7 ways for you to crack somebody else's bank code. Yeah. And so should we take some questions though? And then I'll talk,
sure.
We'll round out with the set of tools and technology that we have. And Molly's a red.
Yep.
Yeah, that's so good. So what are the questions?
Yeah, I'd love to hear from anybody. This again is completely low pressure. If you have questions about your personality code, who's toughest to sell to for you, or who are you
Yeah.
afraid to talk to? As Michelle is here and she can give you tips and tricks on how to do that.
I have a question. I don't know how many people are here, so I totally don't want to dominate this because that's
No problem.
what I'm good at.
Go ahead.
Do you think that you can change over time? Because I know when I took my Myers-Briggs, I was in college and that was like 2013, 14. But as I've been now I'm self-employed and all these other things, I kind of would like to take it again to see if I'm still there. But reading the 4 codes, I'm like, wow, I used to probably be this one, but I think I'm more, excuse me, in this one. Do you find that people stick with this for life or in general, or do people change?
Yeah, sometimes I found what has happened for me personally is I'm still my code. But what happened for me is I started putting more attention on the parts of the code that I'm lesser in, like blueprint was my last, right? So what ended up happening for me is the more that I learned about the blueprint personality, it's the last of my code. Why are we so structured? Why are we so nitpicking? Why do I have to dot every, what? It was just like a foreign language. But once I started becoming more appreciative and understanding that they're really wired that way, and they're really that way because they like safety. That's what their name of the game is, all about, safety. So now that I know that, I can recognize those things in myself, and then like, oh, I can be pretty blueprinty sometime. And so I think maybe for me, it's the appreciation factor instead of resisting these sets of values, and recognizing that I can be this way and that it would be beneficial for me to make an effort to have maybe some better processes or to plan better than I sometimes do. And so I think that's the willingness there. That's the word. I think there's a willingness once you start learning about the codes to go, you know what, I'm going to practice that a little bit more.
Love it. And I know Adam's got some comments here because he actually does corporate training as part of his gig. That's his company. So Adam, weigh in.
Thanks, Dave and Michelle. I've enjoyed your presentation, and actually my question, or maybe my first one, I think is kind of a good follow-up to Molly's. And I guess, I know it's not this simple, but what's the chasm perhaps between adapting or adaptability and authenticity? My point is, if we try to be malleable ourselves, and if we try to fit in with the prospect, it's not going to appear authentic, and nobody can nor should buy anything from us. So I understand your concept is more about identifying, and as you explained in the answer to Molly's question, you identify some components of the other categorizations. But could you maybe talk a little bit about that fine line, if it is a fine line, between authenticity and trying to identify or empathize with those prospects?
Yeah, that's good. I was going to share something funny, it's a great question. So thank you for that. In the layers and layers of training that I've had at corporate, I mean, it's comical sometimes. We'll take our community of trainers and blueprints and this, that, and the other. And then we get tasked sometimes. All right, you blueprints, go over there and sell to the actions. It can be one of the most awkward things you've ever seen in your life, as the more reserved blueprint comes over there and tries to be all fire. So we do those exercises because it really isn't very authentic when you're trying to be somebody that you're not. Right. But it's funny to see everybody trying to be, or knowledge trying to be nurturing, it just looks funny because it's not natural. But to what I said earlier, the skill level that I learned. So I struggled. This was my roadblock every day of the week. I don't change. My product doesn't change. I don't build my websites any differently. We don't do the SEO any differently. I don't do anything differently when I win a business, but because I'm in business, I want to win more business. So what I've learned to do is really in our training. So we're like scratching the surface, and the in-depth training is so good because now we really get into the mind of a blueprint. And once you really get past just this initial understanding and you really dig in to what's driving them, it's almost my favorite person to do business with.
Sure.
Want to know why? Well, because it's so predictable.
Mhm.
So now I know that this person likes to march in a certain way. And so this client that I was going to tell you about gave me a small piece of his marketing, like $3,000 worth of his marketing. While I'm doing the little $3,000 worth of his marketing, he got a web problem with his website, right? And I'm like, oh boy, that's a problem. Tell me about your website. Oh, father and son did it, and they claim to be experts, and they're not, right? It's like, it's really bad.
Mhm.
So he tells me, yeah, I do need a new website. And but we're coming up on the busy season. So can you ping me at the end of this season, which would have been in 2 or 3 months? And by the time I get to him and I'm on my Zoom call, he is giving me a Dear Jane. And we're like 2 minutes into the Zoom call, but I know his code. He's a B, he's an A, he's an NK, he's a bank. That's the sequence.
Mhm.
And I've also identified him as my avatar. He's exactly who I want to do business with. So I'm excited to talk about a website. And in the first 2 minutes, he's like, oh gosh, I really like you, Michelle. And, that thing that you did for us, it was really good and effective. And I don't know how to tell you, but, I started talking to other digital agencies and on he's going. And he's almost ready to give me the Dear Jane. So he said, so in full authenticity, I jumped in and I spoke blueprint action to him is primarily what I did. He had previously told me he's 28 years old. He's building this company, right? He previously told me he wants to be the guy in his city. He wants to crush it. And he's competing with companies that have been around for 40 years.
Mhm.
So I know his goal is to crush it. So when he said, so, I interrupted him. Wouldn't do that if he was a blueprint knowledge, blueprint anything else. I said, so be the worst decision of your young career. He went, whoa, that's bold. And I went, well, can I just regroup with you? And he said, yeah. I go, do you still want to crush it? Do you still have the goal to do X amount of dollars? Do you still want to become an elite contractor? Do you still want all of these things? And he said, yes. I said, then you really need to make the right decision here. And let me tell you, so for 60 minutes, I broke it down. He thought bigger agency meant better. So I go, well, is a bigger furnace better than one that's properly sized? And he said, no, it's less efficient.
Right.
Okay, right?
Mhm.
And I
Love
go, well, do you like it? Do you like getting caught in the middle? So there's fears. So I'm kind of getting a little in the weeds here, but there's some fears associated with this personality. And the fear is making a decision that's risky and unsafe. I'm 100% sure of some of these agencies that specialize in the HVAC industry that crank out websites that really aren't very good and they really aren't optimized very well. I am 100% certain he's better off with me. So I had to break it down and I go, do you like being caught in the middle? Do you like wasting time? And he's like, not at all. And I go, well, do you like getting caught in the middle? And he's like, no. And I go, well, this is how it's going to go because you want me to still do this other marketing, right? And he said, yeah. And I go, I'm going to make a recommendation. I'm going to come to you. You're going to go to them. They're not going to like another digital agency telling them what to do. So they're going to tell you why it doesn't work, in which case you're going to come back to me. And then I'm going to say, no, that's not how it works. And I'm going to go back to you. I mean, is that how you want to spend your time? No. So I went kind of after the fears of the waste of time, the waste of productivity. And at the end of that first meeting, he actually said these words. Wow. You've really given me something to think about. You're really speaking my language.
Mhm.
He said those words. And I, yes, I am speaking your language, Mr. Blueprint, but you want to get her done. The following week, we have another time to talk. And it opens up the same way. I go, no, this is not happening. Am I getting a Dear Jane again? And he was ready to kiss me off again. 90 minutes later. And it's because I talked blueprint. And by the end of 90, and he's my avatar, right? So it's not like, I mean, in my heart of hearts, I know I'm going to do the best job. So no, I didn't change anything other than I delivered the right message. And at the end of 90 minutes, he went, that's it. He said, you've convinced me. You're the one. I like you and everything. I said, do you like it when I say I'm going to do something and I do it? He said, yeah, you can have more of that. You can kiss that goodbye, if you go with this other company, right? Anyway, all of that said, I was completely authentic, but I did speak his language and I didn't change anything. And that happened last August. And he's thrilled with what my company has done for him. So
Thank you. That's a great answer and kind of what I suspected. And I understand better now. Your process is educational. And as you work through it and educate yourself and role play a little bit, even to the point of perhaps awkwardness, that you learn to identify those characteristics and can tailor your pitch while still, of course, being authentic.
Yeah. And it's a skill, right? So it's like the biggest mistake that we make is just to continue talk about our services in the way that makes sense to us.
Right.
That's the
Follow that
biggest
script on the
mistake.
iPad that the HVAC dudes were doing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense to us and we go, what? Why is it not happening? But to fully answer that question, one of our training is how to deliver a power script. And a power script is when you talk about your products and services in a way that you speak to every code. And that's a skill that you can learn. So if I'm walking in and I'm speaking to maybe a group and I don't know who's in the audience, I usually say, hey, Michelle, I'm a Banco trainer. I've got a selling system. It's rooted in science and it's designed to help you make more money and connect with more customers. Who doesn't want more of that? Well, I have a system. It's rooted in science. It's going to help you make more money, connect with more people. So when you're in a corporate world and you've got more than one personality in the room, you start learning about what these values actually mean and start crafting your message in a way that we call a power script. And then to flow. So what I'm teaching the group this morning, or in the winning at the kitchen table, I said, the first step in our process is who's across the table from you. It's really easy. Who's your audience? Hello. Who's your personality type? And the second step is to know how to apply your message to that person. Mm-hmm. It's an easy two-step thing, but it's a skill. So I really appreciate your question quite a bit.
Excellent. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
So, Michelle, as you're going through these and as you're having interviews with clients, I'm sure one of the other things that we're all wondering is how do you do this fluidly? So, are there particular, and I suppose it's in the bullet points on the cards, but how do you peg, oh, this is a blueprint all day long, so I need to speak blueprint to this person, or this is an action person? I guess, is it just the way they drive and the way they connect, or is that kind of wrapped up in the report? Because I just filled out the report as we were talking here, and I've got a 26-page download on what I should be doing, right?
Yeah, it's so good. So that's our two-step process. So step one, you have to crack the code.
Right.
All right.
So
we have,
and then talk.
Yeah. But here's the deal. We have these cards. I always have two sets on me. Mm-hmm. I was out watching the hockey game the other night, and in the intermission, there was a couple next to me, and they said, hey, what do you do? Two sets of cards. I went, boom. And this is what I said. Hey, do you want to take a look at these cards? What I'd like you to do is organize them from top to bottom. At the top is most important to you and most like you. And at the bottom is least important, least like you. It's going to help me get to know you better so we can be efficient with our time. Nobody doesn't take the cards. People are like, oh, what is that? Oh, you get a couple, a business partner, and they start going, oh, and the husband's looking at the wife and the wife's looking at the husband, or business partners would look at each other and they go, I don't know. Oh, is that how your cards are? Oh, what's on that card? Oh yeah, that's not important to me, right? And then they just start talking away. You do that in a corporate. We have trainers that have done this in the corporate boardroom. Mm-hmm. You just do it wherever you go. People love it. And they're going to give these cards back to you however they give them back to you. And that's how you tailor your presentation. Now, we have tools, technology, and training. So there's the online version of this, which we put the chat. And Molly, did you get it? So I saw someone.
Yeah, I think Liz had trouble, but I posted the other.
Yeah. I use Hey Smarty Crack My Code because it's easy to remember and it redirects to the other one. So yeah, that's how you get to it.
So,
Okay,
rock it.
when you send that link to somebody, and so to you in the corporate world, with our methodology, you can crack an unlimited amount of codes. Now, corporations are having some big problems. People don't want to come back to work. People want the vaccine, don't want the vaccine, wearing the mask, not wearing the mask. They're
Mhm.
upset, they're not upset. I mean, it's to the code, right? And corporations are going, wait, what? What? What are we supposed to do? With this tool, you can go into a corporation and crack, if there's 1,000 people in the company, go crack 1,000 codes. It's in our subscription. You don't pay per code crack, but you do that as a way to build teams. You know, are the right people in the right jobs? You know, are the people not getting along? Is there conflict in the organization? Where is it? And we start bringing people together and showing them that report that you get.
Mhm.
And they can start realizing that that's just somebody that sees the world different than me.
Mhm.
That's all we're ever dealing with. They
Right.
see. Yeah. And so in the cards in person, the online form, which is also a lead gen tool, like
Mhm.
for Busy Web, you can post it out there and just say, hey, people, I mean, I'm on Facebook and people, I'm a leprechaun, I'm a parrot, I'm, you know, they're doing all this stuff. Well, you could put it out in your Facebook and say, hey, I'm just working on my communication code or my communication skills. Hey, you know, audience, would you like to go ahead and let me know what's important to you? Well, it's fun, easy, and takes 90 seconds or less.
Sure.
Well, now people are cracking their personality code and you're developing a database of your customers.
Mhm.
Okay. The third way is speed coding. Speed coding is the second in our signature series of training, and speed coding is training the eyes and ears, listening for the words, listening for the behavior. What are they wearing?
Mhm.
Once you know speed coding, I'm looking at people's shoes, I'm looking at their handbag. Oh, okay, okay.
Uh-huh.
So that's a skill everyone should have, plus it's super fun. Then we have our AI tool. And so on LinkedIn, we have a Chrome extension that our AI tool will go in LinkedIn and in a push of a button,
Mhm.
tell you the personality code, the values of that person's profile.
Funny. Yeah. Love it.
Bam. So I have to tell you, so I was looking for certain people so I can play in a national level, and I was looking for a VP of a certain type of company, and I found this guy. So before I reached out to him, I cracked his code, right? I had the Chrome extension cracked his code. He's knowledge first. Do you think I crafted my message different knowing that? There's no exclamation points. I use too many exclamation points. Okay.
Mhm.
There's absolutely no exclamation points. It was just very logical. I see that you do this. Blah, blah, blah. And to my surprise, yeah, I'll take a meeting with you.
Mhm.
Yay.
Yeah.
So that's the Chrome extension that tells you who they are. Our AI tool, you can take any text, email, somebody fills out a web form, your marketing material, your website, and you run it through our AI tool and you push a button and it says, this verbiage that you just inputted represents these values. And it has a code. It has a communication code. Okay. So our AI tool will help you put more accurate messaging out there by saying, you're speaking this code,
Mhm.
right? And if you're trying to match someone, like let's say I know that you're Dave a certain code, you sent me a communication, I put it through the AI, our AI tool will say, now go ahead and respond in the same code. So I'll hit respond and I'll type in what I would normally say, and the AI will tell you, no, that's not a match. Don't do that. Or yes, it is a match. So
Right.
it's like being authentic, but making your message land. And then we have meeting advisor, which sits in the background of your meeting. So anybody that's doing Zoom calls, dang, Zoom and Codebreaker Technology came and had a baby, and it's called meeting advisor. And it sits in the background and it analyzes you and all of the participants on the code. I love it because when I get done with the meeting, they said, Michelle, you showed up this way. You spoke for X amount of time. It'll tell you your engagement level, like the arrow either points to the left or straight up and down or to the right. And it shows how engaged or focused was that person. So I better be focused, right? And it tells me if I'm not. And then it'll give me a bar chart of how did I communicate? And then it'll say so-and-so was on that call and he presented this communication code and it's different. And that person was interested or not. And then it'll say, based on that code of your guest, this is how you should reach out to them. Do this, don't do that.
Right. Is that tool live or after the fact? Molly chatted us in.
Yeah, it takes a couple hours
Okay,
after the fact. Mhm.
cool. So
And with
that they were dialed in, or they were, a little bit random, or, this is telling us that they're probably a B or an N, or
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah. And
Sounds-
the example I gave you of that other guy, both times we were on my Zoom link. So at the end of those meetings, the Zoom link told me how I did and what he was concerned about. He's blueprint. He's always blueprint,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
And so, okay, that's good. So, so we got the cards. There's 7 ways. We've got the cards. We've got the link. We've got speed coding. We've got the Chrome extension. We have our AI tool, and we have the advanced assessment, which is, imagine that one of these cards has got a volume control from 0 to 25. How much of each part of your code are you? Which will tell you, going back to the awkward thing, like sometimes we see someone's code and the B and the K are super high and the N and the A are super low. Well, how awkward that's going to be for you to try and speak nurturing and action, right? But it's the skill that you build. So you start moving in that direction. The other thing I wanted to make sure before we left, 2 of these personality codes makes the decision from their mind. 2 of them from instinct or intuition.
Mhm.
So that's why the full code, there's 24 varieties of the full code, right? So there's 24 different varieties, which is why it's your skill. It's just the way that you're communicating is so important.
Cool. Well, Liz just logged off, but she said, thanks for the interesting lens on communication and personalities. And we're
Yes.
at 1 minute to the top of the hour. So, as we look at this for our fractional audience, and for folks that we know, I have, in the audience, and certainly as people that are watching, it's going to be a lot of folks that I know in the manufacturing and B2B services worlds
Oh, yes.
that are going to be in here. I think what I'm hearing is that it's really important to focus on the kinds of people and what they're receptive to, and to have empathy and to speak their language, right?
Yeah. Speak
Cool.
their language.
Mhm.
Yeah. Speak their language. You can find out more about me on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I have Winning at the Kitchen Table, which is a program, or just reach out to me, via
Yes.
in the community. Yeah.
And I'm chatting to everyone. Michelle's LinkedIn profile, please connect up with her, and
Yeah.
make sure to connect up and find more details about Michelle's company at heysmartypants.com. Super fun.
Yay. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. And thanks for a fantastic office hours, Michelle. Looking forward to seeing you on future episodes as well. And gosh, thanks to everybody that dialed in, Molly, Adam, Cindy, to the other folks that were on and had to leave. If you're watching this after the fact, always love seeing you. And we'll talk to you next Friday. I should probably promo up for next one.
Yeah. Who's up?
Mike Manham of salesacceleration.com, who's going to be talking about CEO sales, how to grow.
Oh.
So that's going to be really, really fun. So be sure to dial in and register. Same link that you registered at before, and would love to see you all there. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you for having me as your guest. I totally enjoyed it.
My pleasure, and so great having you on. Talk to you soon, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.